Did you know a surprising link connects India and Mongolia? The mighty Mughal Empire ruled India for centuries. Its founder, Babur, came from Central Asia. He had ancestors from Mongolia. This means a thread of Mongol heritage is woven into India's rich history. Imagine a truly wild idea. What if India and Mongolia swapped their geographical places? Suddenly, India would sit in East Asia. It would be landlocked between China and Russia. Mongolia would find itself in South Asia. It would have a long coastline on the Indian Ocean. This is a massive change. The very ground beneath their feet would change. The air they breathe would be different. The plants and animals around them would be new. This is not just moving people, it is moving entire lands. It is like taking two giant puzzle pieces. Then you switch their places on the world map. The scale of this imagined event is staggering. This is the start of our incredible journey. India's new location would be a shock. It would be in the heart of East Asia. No more warm ocean breezes from the Indian Ocean. Instead, it would face the cold, dry lands of Mongolia's original spot. The towering Himalayas would be gone from its northern border. Now, vast, open steppes would surround many parts of it, or perhaps rugged mountains and the Gobi Desert. This new geography is harsh. Mongolia, in India's old place, would also be amazed. It would suddenly be a South Asian nation. The vast Indian subcontinent would be its new home. It would have the warm Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal. The mighty Himalayas would now be its northern shield. Instead of endless grasslands, Mongolians would see dense forests, they would see fertile river plains, they would see crowded cities. The infrastructure of both nations would face instant crisis. Indian cities built for heat would freeze, pipes would burst, roads might crack in the extreme cold, power grids would fail. This is a true test of human spirit. Indians would find themselves in a land of endless space. Mongolia's original land is vast. It is one of the most sparsely populated countries on Earth. Indians are used to living close together. Their cities are packed, their villages are full of life. Now they would see horizons that stretch on forever. The concept of personal space would change completely. Neighbors might be miles away. Agriculture, the backbone of India for millennia, would collapse. Rice paddies cannot exist in frozen earth. Wheat fields need a gentler climate. Mango trees and spice plants would die instantly. Indians would need to learn new ways to get food. Perhaps they could learn herding from leftover Mongolian traditions, or they might try to develop new super hardy crops. This would take generations. Hunger would be a real and constant threat. Indian clothing like saris and dhotis offers no protection against -30°C temperatures. They would need thick furs and wool, like the Mongolians. This would be a new society. The sheer struggle for existence could forge new bonds. Mongolians, people of the open steppe, would be in India's place. They are used to vast, uncrowded landscapes. Their nomadic lifestyle values freedom and mobility. Now they would be in one of the world's most densely populated regions. Cities like Delhi or Mumbai would be a shock. Millions of people, towering buildings, endless traffic. The sheer scale of human presence would be unlike anything they knew. The climate would be a difficult adjustment. Mongolia has long, cold winters and short, hot summers. It is mostly dry. India has monsoons. It has intense humidity. It has scorching pre-monsoon heat. The traditional Mongolian deal, a warm robe, would be too hot. Their felt gears would become damp and moldy in the rains. They would need new types of clothes. They would need new types of homes. Adapting to this heat and wetness would be hard. Food and resources would be abundant, yet strange. Mongolians eat a lot of meat and dairy. In India, they would find a huge variety of new foods: rice, lentils, countless vegetables, and tropical fruits. Learning to cook with Indian ingredients would be an adventure. Social interactions would be very different. It would require great patience and openness. Section 5. Daily bread, daily life. Adapting to new realities. The kitchens of both swapped nations would face a revolution. Indian cuisine, famous for its spices and diverse vegetarian dishes, would struggle in the cold steppe. Where would they find fresh vegetables year-round? How would they grow chili and turmeric in frozen ground? They might learn to preserve food differently, perhaps drying meat like Mongolians, or fermenting vegetables if possible. Their rich culinary heritage would be tested. Mongolian food traditions would also face challenges in hot India. Airag, the fermented mare's milk, is a beloved drink, but keeping it fresh in tropical heat would be hard. Budog, meat cooked with hot stones inside an animal skin, is a steppe specialty. Finding space and acceptance for such cooking methods in a crowded Indian setting might be difficult. They might adopt Indian spices. They might find new ways to cook their traditional meats. Housing would be a major issue. Indians in Mongolia's old land would need to build insulated homes. Their current houses are designed for ventilation, not for trapping heat. They might adopt Mongolian ger-like structures, but with better insulation. This is a very big change. Section 6. Festivals and Traditions. Old ways in new lands. Imagine India's vibrant festivals in the stark Mongolian landscape. Diwali, the festival of lights, is celebrated with lamps and fireworks. How would it look on a vast, dark, snowy plain? The joyous colors of Holi might seem out of place against a grey winter sky. Yet these festivals are central to Indian culture. People would find ways to celebrate. Perhaps Diwali lamps would guide travelers across the snow. Perhaps Holi colors would bring cheer to the long winter. Now picture Mongolian festivals in India's tropical setting. Nadam is Mongolia's biggest celebration. It features wrestling, horse racing, and archery. Holding Nadam in the monsoon rains of India would be difficult. Where would they find vast open spaces for horse races in a crowded land? Yet the spirit of Nadam is strong. They might adapt the games. Perhaps wrestling could happen indoors. Archery could be done in smaller ranges. Religious practices would also need to adapt. Many Indians worship outdoors or in temples open to the elements. This could be a spiritual journey. Section 7. A culinary encounter, the shared ger meal. Let us imagine a specific moment. An Indian family, now living on the former Mongolian steppe, invites their new Mongolian neighbors. These Mongolians might be some of the few who chose to stay or were unable to leave. The Indians have managed to build a small, warm shelter. It is not quite a ger, not quite an Indian hut. It is something new. They want to share a meal. This is a human gesture of friendship. It happens all over the world. The Indian family tries to cook. They have some lentils and rice they brought, or perhaps they traded for them. They struggle with a small stove. It burns dried animal dung, a new fuel for them. The smell is unfamiliar. The Mongolians watch with quiet curiosity. They are used to this life. They see the Indians try hard. There is no judgment, only observation. The air is filled with a mix of Indian spices and the earthy smell of the ger. This is how understanding begins. Section 8. Echoes of change, society, economy and power. The economies of both nations would be thrown into chaos. India, now landlocked in Mongolia's place, would lose its ports. Its massive shipping industry would vanish. Its access to global sea trade would be gone. The service sector and IT industry might struggle without reliable power in the cold. Agriculture, a huge employer, would be devastated. India would need to find new economic paths, perhaps mining Mongolia's mineral wealth if they could adapt. Mongolia, gaining India's geography, would suddenly have a vast coastline. It would have access to major sea lanes. This could be a huge economic opportunity, but Mongolia has a small population. Could they manage India's huge ports and complex infrastructure? Could they farm India's diverse lands effectively? They might become rich from trade, or they might be overwhelmed by the scale of it all. Geopolitics would be redrawn. India, moved to East Asia, would sit between two giants, Russia and China. This is a very sensitive spot. Mongolia in South Asia would gain new neighbors. These are big changes on the world stage. Section 9. Lessons from a world remade: why geography matters. This imaginary swap teaches us a vital lesson. Geography is incredibly powerful. It shapes almost everything about a country. It shapes its climate and resources. This in turn shapes its culture. It shapes its economy. It shapes its daily life. The land where people live is not just a backdrop. It is an active force. It molds civilizations in profound ways. We see this clearly when we imagine such a drastic change. The experiment also shows human adaptability. People are not just victims of geography. They respond, they innovate, they change. Faced with such extreme challenges, Indians and Mongolians would not simply give up. They would learn. They would adapt their clothes, their food, their homes. They would create new traditions. New hybrid cultures would emerge. This resilience is a core part of being human. It is our greatest strength. Thinking about this swap helps us understand others. It builds empathy. When we imagine walking in another nation's shoes or living on their land, we appreciate their struggles. This imaginative journey can reduce prejudice.